Welcome back to the TMF Daily Podcast, where we're breaking down the key elements of clinical research so you can show up in the TMF as a leader. So today we're diving into something that might seem just like another form, but it's actually really the one of the most important documents that a lot of people have said that is their favorite on our show. And you know what that was? The FDA Form 1572. So look, if you've ever wondered why this form is such a big deal or how it ties into the global regulations, today's episode is going to be for you. I'm going to unpack everything you need to know from the FDA's perspective and to how the EMA and the ICH GCP guidelines sort of align and even the legal backing behind it. So get ready, level up your understanding, and sharpen that edge in the TMF. What is the FDA Form 1572? The Form 1572 Statement of Investigator, it's essentially your contract between the clinical investigator and the FDA. It's the investigator's commitment that they're complying with the federal regulations specifically laid out in 21 CFR Part 312.53. And when you sign that form, you're not just checking the box, right? You're agreeing that you're going to oversee the conduct of the trial and that you're going to ensure compliance with the investigational plan. And you're going to protect the rights and the safety and the welfare of all the study participants. And it's not just like this casual agreement. It's legally binding, okay? So here's the kicker. If the commitments on this form, if they're not upheld, the investigator and even the sponsor, they could face regulatory actions and including like disqualifications from conducting like clinical research in the future. Now let's talk about why it's a global standard. So here's where it gets kind of interesting, right? The Form 1572, it's specific to the FDA. Its principles resonate globally. So take the EMA and ICH GCP E6 R2, for example. The ICH guidelines, they emphasize the importance of investigator responsibilities, particularly in Section 4, where it outlines everything from proper trial conduct to informed consent forms. The 1572 aligns perfectly with these global standards, and they're ensuring that investigators are going to meet those obligations regardless of where the trial takes place. In Europe, the EMA might not use the 1572, but it requires similar documentation to ensure compliance with the EU Clinical Trial Regulation, CTR, and GCP. So it's all about creating a consistent framework that's going to protect those patients and guarantee the integrity of clinical data worldwide. Let's talk about this commitment, right? What are you actually agreeing to when you sign that 1572? It's more than just a signature. These are the commitments, right? You're going to adhere to the protocol. You're agreeing to conduct that study exactly as it's outlined in the investigational plan. Deviations only when necessary, to when it's going to eliminate like immediate hazards to the participants. Training and oversight. As per 21 CFR Part 312.60, you're responsible for ensuring that everyone involved in the trial is qualified and trained. No exceptions, period. Record keeping. The FDA under 21 CFR 312.62, it requires you to maintain accurate, complete records. And these got to be accessible for inspection. So when you sign that 1572, that's what that means. Also, reporting obligations. So you got to report those adverse events. that are outlined in 21 CFR 312.64, okay? And you want to ensure that you're reporting that in a timely manner to your IRB and your sponsor. Now, what are some of the common mistakes that we see in the 1572? Well, a lot of times when I was a CTA, it was incomplete or it was incorrect 1572. So even the smallest errors can lead to compliance issues. Remember, this form is a legal document. Another common pitfall is not updating the form. So if there's any changes to your site, investigators, or sub-investigators, the 1572's got to be updated promptly. Another one is training. It always goes back to training, doesn't it? Investigators often forget that oversight includes making sure your team is trained and it's aligned with the protocol and the regulations. Now, here's the pro tip. If you don't already know this, the FDA has guidance on how to fill out the 1572, and it's called the Information Sheet Guidance for sponsors, clinical investigators, and IRBs. Like, bookmark it, do whatever you got to do to have it at hand and read it. Reread it, do a refresher. It's well worth the read. So why does the 1572 matter anyways? Well, at the end of the day, the 1572 is just not a piece of paper, right? It's the FDA's way of ensuring that clinical trials are conducted ethically, safely, and that you're going to produce reliable data. And then from like a global perspective, the commitments you make on this form are going to mirror the expectations that are set by the ICH GCP guidelines, and they align with the goals of regulators like the EMA. So whether you're in the US, Europe, or elsewhere, these principles are the same. They protect the patients, compliance. You're going to uphold that integrity. You see the themes? It's always about the patients. It's always about compliance. And it's always about integrity, doing the right thing, even when no one's looking. Do the right thing. Those audit trails, you can't get away with nothing. Do the right thing. All right. That's a wrap on the FDA Form 1572, right? It's not just about following the rules. It's about showing up as a leader, working in the TMF, someone who values integrity, safety, and excellence. So here's your action steps, right? Go back and review the understandings of the 1572 and its commitments. If you're signing it, own it. And if you're leading a team, make sure everyone understands the stakes. As always, thank you for tuning into the TMF Daily Podcast. If this episode added value to your day, don't forget to share it, leave a review, and hit subscribe. Let's just keep leveling up together.